Good morning, Mr. Puri. Welcome to the show. Welcome to Business Standard Manthan, and thank you for coming. Reimagining FMCG to make future-ready India. We'll come to that topic in a bit. We'll begin by the basics of the FMCG sector, or fast-moving consumer goods. That, in a sense, measures how the economy is functioning. Every time we want to know the pulse of the economy, we talk about FMCG and how it's doing in urban India, how it's doing in rural India. So recently, when there was a GST cut, how did the consumer demand really pick up, and how did the FMCG sector reflect that? What has been your experience so far?
First of all, thank you for inviting me. It's a privilege to be here. Now, let me start by saying that over time, there have been several purposeful policy interventions by the government, reforms, some very strategic measures over a period of time. And all this has made India the fastest growing economy, the most resilient economy, and to achieve these kind of growth rates at a time when the whole world is going through a lot of challenges, I think is indeed remarkable and a testament to the policy interventions. So, and there have been a slew of interventions to aid consumption in the past. I think the Honorable Finance Minister earlier announced the reduction in the income tax rates, and then the GST reduction came in. And together with that, I think the overall macros are also very supportive, because the investments in public infrastructure are continuing. Digitization is empowering the economy. Fortunately for us, the inflation is benign. I think the investments in rural India are also helping. So all of these really are coming together. It's kind of a confluence of factors. And I think added to that was the GST, which was a very pleasant surprise in the recent past. And after that, certainly we are seeing an improved trend. And I do believe that given all the macros are in place, progressively things will get better. And I would say that for the length and breadth of the country.
Do you agree, when we measure economy from the prism of FMCG, is it a true reflection, and what is the correlation between economic growth and FMCG demand picking up or going down?
So it's a fair, I think, correlation, because India is, after all, a consumption-driven economy, and FMCG does correlate to the progress in the economy. Very certainly it does. But we have to keep in mind today, the basket of consumption is also shifting. And therefore, the exact correlations will also evolve over time. But yes, growth in GDP, economic progress, all of these do correlate to consumption.
Coming to the subject, the theme of this session, reimagining FMCG for future-ready India. How do you reimagine FMCG?
Well, we have to look at it from the context of what's happening in the market. And there are several factors that are changing the landscape in India. Of course, there is a dimension of size. India will be a 21 trillion rupees FMCG market by 2030. If one was to correlate to experience of other economies, when the per capita GDP goes in the $4,000 to $5,000, it's a point of inflection on consumption. And that is certainly going to happen over time. So from a size perspective, it will only get much bigger. But I think that's not the only dimension. I think what we need to also understand is that the cohorts are changing in the market. The go-to markets are changing. From a situation where we had largely a general trade, we have multiple channels today. The newest one and the fastest growing, of course, is the quick commerce, right? Now, each one of these channels has its own nuances. Each one of these challenges influences markets and enables markets in its own unique phase. So it's a very dynamic market. It's also a very competitive market because no more access to capital is a problem in India. If you have a great idea, capital is available. So there are now newer entrepreneurs coming in the legacy systems, and there are a lot more people coming in the new age systems like the D2C. Along with that, you have a lot of local, regional, national level, MNCs, all of them competing. So it's a very competitive landscape. So when you're looking at this changing dynamic, now there are for us, there are a few things that are important for us. One is, as an organization, in a rapidly changing environment, and we in ITC actually use this term, navigating a turn. Turn being turbulence, uncertainty, rapid change, calling for novel strategies, because that's reality in many ways. So for us, it's important to remain nimble and consumer-centric. We have to be where the consumer is. We have to serve the consumer what he needs, and which means we have to, on one hand, be an omni-channel player, be present in all the channels. Secondly, our portfolio has to be contemporary, has to be future-right, has to be refreshed and revitalized continuously, because there's a multi-dimensional evolution in the market. Different needs and cohorts are emerging. And we've been doing it in ITC both organically, not only about scaling our, the core brands, but also seeding vectors for future growth, and also complementing it by inorganic, particularly when we are seeding the vectors of future growth. So we've acquired several of the new age brands like, Yoga Bar, 24 Mantra, Prasuma, Mother Sparsh, baby care, and supplemented by interventions internally, like we have Right Shift for cohorts over 40, active lifestyle. We have Prana, we have, and so on and so forth. So a lot of interventions internally as well. And to be able to do that, I think what is required is a lot of investments in research and development, something that India historically has not been very good at. Our R&D intensity is low. But in ITC, that's been core to us. That's been core to us as a challenger, and we have deep investments. In fact, we are seen as the largest innovator in the private sector after CSIR. It's next is the ITC Life Sciences and Technology Center. And in today's world, it's not about innovation merely because you are a challenger. You need a lot more innovation because there are many channels, many more cohorts emerging, and you need them fast. So you need to take bets, you need to create, you need to do a lot of investments on digital. You see, a very positive outcome of the Honorable Prime Minister's visionary Digital India policy is we have a huge digital public infrastructure, and we have a critical piece of consumers engaged, right? And with AI and these tools emerging, this becomes very, very core to competitiveness. And the fourth, of course, the last point I want to make before I stop here, I think to make all of this happen, talent is very critical. You need entrepreneurial talent. So in ITC, we call it pronorial talent. You need talent that has a high degree of learning agility. And you need to have your processes designed to empower so fast decision-making can happen. So I think these are really the ingredients that are required for enterprises to reimagine and to be prepared for the future.
You mentioned talent. So is that a challenge in finding good, real talent, especially in R&D?
Well, I think India has fantastic talent. India has fantastic talent. We have enough talent to be able to find them. You need to, I think, blend people with the depth of expertise along with market insights. And you need to also, there are a lot of experienced talent with a tremendous amount of wisdom sitting overseas who actually want to come back to India because of the excitement. So blend the talent that has grown up in India with the talent that works overseas. So you get a global perspective and blend it with insights I think talent is very much there, and STEM is a very strong area as far as India is concerned. I think what we must all be proud of, in the earlier sessions we were hearing about productivity, but let's look at the productivity of innovation in India. We heard about the Indian AI that's developing the LLMs. We know about our space interventions by ISRO. Look at the investments and the kind of and the amount of people and resources that's gone into it. I think talent is tremendous capability. It's a question of aligning them, providing them the right tools, and I think we have a winning proposition.
On AI, how do you think India is really doing, in R&D? You mentioned R&D earlier. Are we doing enough there? And how is the FMCG sector really going to benefit from AI?
So first of all, as far as R&D is concerned, as I said earlier, I think we have a long way to go. I think the overall investments in R&D in the economy are not substantial. They're much lower than what other economies are doing, and out of that, private sector is only 40% of that. So we have a long way to go. AI is, I think what is interesting is that in India, the adoption and the diffusion of AI is happening at a much faster pace than I think we are seeing anywhere across the world. And one of the reasons is that we have a very powerful digital ecosystem, very powerful public, digital infrastructure that's enabling people to participate at a low cost. So we do have a lot of adoption and a lot of diffusion of AI. Now, as far as FMCG specifically is concerned, now if you look at FMCG, they're broadly, let's say you can put it into 3 buckets. There is this whole bit of inciting to creating a product. There's a whole bit of managing the supply chain and executing at the storefront. And there's a whole bit of marketing. So you put it into 3 buckets. I think each one of these spaces has got very strong application, very strong adoption, and creating a lot of value for enterprises. Now, if I was to just give you examples, now when I speak about inciting to product development, and you wanted to know something about, in R&D itself. Now, we have a center we call the Sixth Sense, which monitors hundreds of trends, distills it through proprietary algorithms, and converts it into actionables for 22 different categories. And something that would have taken in a physical world months is available in a way you can say real time. And if you can act on it, quickly, and you can act on it quickly because if you have invested in R&D platforms, you can convert the requirement into a product very fast. So when we've invested, for example, in a lot of work we are doing on the nutrition platform. So one of the very strong trends these days is around gut health, protein, fiber, etc., etc. So when we picked up this for proteins, very fast, we had acquired a brand called Yoga Bar, a startup. That entire brand pivoted to proteins. We went to protein beverages, we went into soya chunks, we went into protein atta. Now, all of these solutions came rapidly. We found through the insight that there was a specific requirement of nutritive dense products for cohorts over 40 plus in India for an active lifestyle. Again, leveraging the platform, we were quick to the market. And once you have the insight, AI is a very important tool to help you develop the solutions. When, for example, you're developing the right kind of protein, there are many options, many matrices possible. But there are tools available that help you shortlist very rapidly in hours, and you can zero in onto the limited number of options and then kind of take in from there. So there's a lot that AI can do. And similarly, there are lots of applications in marketing, in store execution, plenty of applications, plenty of methods by which you can enhance the effectiveness in each one of these channels. So I think it's integral to success in FMCG.
One of the cohorts will be quick commerce, as you referred to it, in your opening remarks. How do you cope with quick commerce? It's a different world altogether. And are you a believer in quick commerce?
Well, I am a believer that we have to be nimble and consumer-centric. We have to be where the consumer is shopping and where the consumer wants his products. That's what guides us. And I think quick commerce is a large segment. It's estimated to be ₹1 trillion today. By 2030, I saw some data that's showing it may be 6 trillion. We are closer to 40% growth. If you look at some of the East Asian economies, the penetration has gone as much as 40%. We are also progressing fast. But there is opportunity for that segment to grow further. And I think as we are seeing more and more people digitally engaged and getting comfortable with it, these segments will grow. Now, what is important to realize is that each channel has its own nuances. Each channel has its own challenges and opportunities. It is not about trying to take the standard portfolio that I was putting in GT and trying to sell it in every channel. There is a commonality, but there is a right assortment for the right channel. And each channel throws up new opportunities. Opportunities that you could not serve with earlier with the other channels. So for example, one of the advantage of e-commerce or quick commerce is that you can bring on board a lot more variety and niches, which you cannot do in a physical store because of limitation of space. And while consumers in India always wanted certain specialized products or certain niches, but found it difficult to get it. Maybe some of them imported it. Maybe some of them had it on their list when they were going abroad that I have to shop XYZ and bring it because it's not available in India. But today, that's changing. So if you look at the way that, to give you some examples, one of the acquisitions we did was Mother Sparsh, specialized baby care. Now, there is a need for it. I have anecdotally witnessed a lot of people who have babies or going to have babies. When they're going abroad, the shopping list is some specialized products. But these are now being made available in India. Quick commerce helps you serve low shelf life, fresh products. So we also leverage that opportunity. Now we have something called Sunfeast Baked Creations. We also, introduced. It's very interesting that one of our core strategies is around leveraging institutional strengths. That's how we formed our foods business. But more recently, with the food delivery ecosystem evolving, we saw an opportunity. And we leverage the strengths of our foods business and our cuisine expertise in hotels to create our ITC Fresh Fruits business, which is through the cloud kitchen apparatus. Now, more recently, when we went into Sunfeast Baked Creation, actually the fresh food business or the cloud kitchen actually fed on to foods business to give them some additional expertise to create these fresh and low shelf life packaged foods business, right? So this is the way that we have been evolving, and this is the way I think all of us need to evolve to leverage the opportunities in the quick commerce space that are evolving.
Opportunities, all right, but how tough is it to balance the two, the traditional and the new modern, so to say?
So we have to play to each channel's strengths. We have to invest in each channels, and that's what we are doing. We have to have the right assortment for each channel. And so that in each channel, we create win-win partnerships. For example, in GT channel, we have created, we've kind of to aid the channel, we have created apps where people can order at will. People can order on, typically when the salesman goes, sometimes the shopkeeper is busy. So you can have a limited conversation. So you tend to focus on certain things. And we have an AI and Gen AI based system which guides the salesman based on an analysis of 12,000 parameters. So besides whatever the outlet is regularly buying, what are the 2 or 3 additional things that may be of interest to the outlet? So you would focus on 2 or 3. But we have an app called Unnati, which is on the the instrument or the handheld of the shopkeeper, and at will and whenever he has spare time, he can browse, and if he believes that something can be sold in his outlet, he can order it and we make it deliver, right? So we work out specific schemes, promos, assortment, and specific solutions to strengthen general trade, and we have to play a win-win game with all the channels.
Looking at future, how do you look at the non-cigarette FMCG business over, say, the next 5 years or so?
Well, I mean, that's a segment that we are deeply committed to. We are investing behind. We have a lot of strengths and that give us the right to win in this segment. I think last year we had a turnover of about 22,000 crores, and run rate right now would be 24,000. And all this has happened in roughly about 2 decades. And of course, we want to scale it up further. So our next stop naturally has to be 50,000 crores. But more importantly, I think it's not just about
when is that?
Sorry?
50,000 crore stop.
Medium term, I mean, I won't put I won't give you a guidance of the date, but medium term I would put it. But more importantly, it's about attaining leadership in categories as we spend some time in each one of the categories. There'll be newer ones which will be nascent, but they will be the older categories for us. We want leadership there. We want leadership not just in terms of size or market standing, but product leadership. And more importantly, I think because bulk of what we are doing is foods related, we want to see all our food brands anchor agri-value chains, empower farmers to create a lot of value in the rural economy, besides helping us, the synergy helping us to create made in India, proud made in India brands. And we've started our journey on exports some years back, positioning our products in various markets. We would like that also to multiply over a period of time.
On this growth path, where does premiumization come in?
So premiumization is very natural to an economy that is growing. Premiumization is a reflection of the progress of an economy. Some time back, you had just maybe the Ambassador or the Fiats or the Standards, and we see the variety of cars we have today, right? It's not that two-wheelers have gone away, but the two-wheelers of yesteryears and today, they've all transformed. So it's a sign of the economy's progress, and premiumization is very much there in FMCG. It is growing much faster than the overall economy, and I think it's there to stay. And it's not just premiumization, it is premiumization with specific unique benefits, some of which I alluded to, whether it's health or whether it's specialized care or whether it's fresh or low shelf life. There are many axes of premiumization that are available. But yes, premiumization is there to stay, and I think is a strong trend which will only strengthen as the economy progresses.
And when we are talking about premiumization, where does rural come in versus urban? Is premiumization only an urban trend, or is it showing in rural as well?
Well, we have a very aspirational society today. Bharat is very much aspirational. And you'd be surprised at how widely premium products are sold in the country. With even rural India owning mobile phones, smartphones, becoming far more aware than they were yesterday, I think the aspirations are rising there also. We have brands like Choco Fills, which is a very premium biscuit, or Fiamma Gel Bar, which is a very premium soap. Now we are surprised at not only that it is selling, and we're surprised at the depth as to how far deep in rural India do these products go and sell? So it's very much across the length and breadth of the country.
And going forward, do you think rural is going to lead? Are things going to change in the next 5 to 10 years, rural versus urban?
I think rural should in India naturally be growing faster than urban, because that's where there is a lot of opportunity. That is a relatively underserved market as compared to urban India. I think that market should naturally be growing. That's where incomes have to move faster, and I expect that will continue to grow faster. Of course, that does not mean urban should not grow. Urban also should be growing, but I do expect rural should stay ahead of the urban. That's actually a healthy sign of India's economic progress.
What about Gen Z in the entire piece? Gen Z and FMCG, how is it driving growth?
Well, India is a very interesting market. Gen Z is, of course, an important component of the market and the influence to the FMCG market, because there are close to 400 million today, accounting for about 46% of the spends today. So he's an important cohort, and he's more well-informed, more focused on purpose, has very specific requirements, clean labels, health, even redefining, of course they want indulgence also, but they're redefining indulgence codes. A lot of interest in flavors from overseas, regional, Kanufa, for example, and that we also ended up launching Kanufa chocolates under Febel. So a lot of interest, or we launched some, noodles in some Pan-Asian flavors which were not available, Pan-Asian styles, because this is the influence that's coming in. Even you look at our fresh foods business, you suddenly find a lot of interest for local recipes and local tastes in different parts of the world. Like, for example, we had our cloud kitchen had a mutton festival in the south.
Mutton festival.
Yeah, lamb festival, and they discovered that Champaran meat was most popular. This is a dish of Bihar, all the way in Bangalore. Okay. So that's how Gen Z is influencing behavior. But they are not the only cohort. You see, there are 250 million people above 40 that have their own requirements. They want nutrition-dense products for an active lifestyle. That's where right shift comes in. There are the millennials. There are the traditionalists who are now looking for some convenience at home. That is where things like frozen, spices, ready-to-eats, a lot of them come in. And of course, there is Gen Alpha, which is not small. There's 300 million that will influence the next wave of consumption. So Indian market is getting very interesting and exciting. Different segments are emerging, and different niches are emerging. But the good thing, it is such a large market that all these segments can actually create very exciting opportunities.
So Gen Z, Gen Alpha, lots to deal with. But what about the external factors? Do they worry you, and do you look at it as a risk, or is it an opportunity also? External geopolitical factors playing on the FMCG segment.
See, it influences FMCG, I think I would say, in two ways. One is, if it impedes economic progress, it impedes consumption. If trade barriers come in, it can influence, it can impede exports or overseas businesses. But I think, having said that, I think geopolitics, climate change, large changes being driven by technology, consumer preferences, demographic shifts across the world, I think this is par for the course now. And this is how the world is going to be, and that's why in the beginning I said it's, for us in ITC, we've said it's about navigating a turn. We can no more start getting surprised by certain unanticipated developments in the world. That's how the world is evolving. So we have to learn and stay invested and learn to navigate that situation. And we need to build our capabilities to be dealt with. I think one very important facet that happens in this world, besides the piece about innovation and digital that I spoke about, I think it's also to be very cognizant of your supply chain footprint. How are you not only, building your supply chain to be efficient or to service the market well, but how resilient is it? How resilient is it from weather events? Do you expect that, for example, if there is a flood, that your supply chain would be disrupted and you would not be able to serve your consumers? Or have you thought through that possibility and developed alternatives ways or mitigated risks on your site? We've actually, done climate risk modeling across decades to identify risks at site level and try and mitigate it by making interventions to minimize. Or will my manufacturing stop because I don't have water? I think it was 1 or 2 years back in the south, in a region, industrial activity was stopped for 15 days because water was short. But we were able to continue because we represented that we actually have a positive footprint in the society. So if I did stop manufacturing, the society would have even less water, and we were the only ones allowed to manufacture. So there is this beat on natural resources and climate as one part of resilience. The other is how far and wide is your, the input side of your supply chain. Are you very import dependent? Do you have alternate suppliers? We have fortunately, been able to develop supply chains which are very local. Almost everything is sourced in India. Whatever we have to import, the first thing we look at is how do I develop it in India? How do I develop vendor ecosystems? And I think all of this gives resilience and strength to our supply chain. I think this is one area that's becoming increasingly important to weather the storms that arise on account of geopolitical issues.
Related to that, you've been on the board, you've been a director on the board of India-US strategic partnership, if I'm correct. So how does that board function now? Is it kind of challenging to be on that board?
No, I think the relationship and interest amongst business community on either side remains strong. There is opportunity for Indian businesses. There is opportunity for US businesses. India is the fastest growing economy. It's progressively becoming a stronger powerhouse, and therefore naturally there is a lot of interest. So I think that doesn't change things. Yeah, that doesn't change things. I think the interest continues. Yeah.
On the whole, for the food sector, how do you look at the role of the regulator? Do you think can things change the way we function as a regulator in India?
In what sense? Sorry.
The way things are regulated, is it good enough to have FSSAI the way it is, or some things should change the way international regulators do? Is the authority good enough with the FSSAI?
See, all sectors, including foods, do need to have guardrails and regulations, definitely. And I think setting up FSSAI was a very good step by the government. I think the move towards that the government is also focused on, and I'm making a broad statement, I'm not making it specific to FSSAI or anything. I think the whole focus on ease of doing business is very important. There are regulations in India that were made a long time back, and the world has changed, India has changed, and we need to contemporize that. I think a lot more work in that is happening. Lots have happened already. I think lots in the pipeline. I think that is good. I would say a lot more focus generally on self-regulation, self-declarations. And a lot of focus also needs to come in on citizen education. While citizens do have a right, I think citizens also have an obligation. I think managing oneself and fulfilling, not only asking for our rights, but fulfilling obligations. I think education on that is very important also to make regulations effective and vibrant. So if you look at this whole space of foods itself, there is this whole debate about wellness and food. I think at the end of it, each one of us has to take responsibility for our health. It may be all right to have one samosa, but is it all right to have 10 samosas or 10 jalebis? That's a call each one has to take. Nobody can kind of force you, right? So I think the education of consumers is also important, so that we are also contributing to building a society that is better, because we have as citizens both rights and obligations. I think that obligations piece also needs to come out much stronger.
4 decades in ITC, what are the magic moments you remember, the really good moments in these 4 decades? I won't ask you about the challenging moments.
Well, I think there are many interesting moments in my career in ITC, and if I was to start talking about it, it could be a whole day. But let's just do one or two. I think what one of the most exciting moments for me in my career was when we launched ITC Mars. Now, ITC is been deeply engaged with farmers. They're a very important stakeholder for us. And they are not just a provider of agri-produce for us. A lot of our business is dependent on agriculture or the plantations. But for us, it's also about being able to add value and empower the farmers so their quality and productivity could improve. Now, ITC Mars, which stands for Meta Markets for Advanced Agriculture and Rural Services, it's an integrated phygital ecosystem and a one-stop shop which equips farmer cooperatives or FPOs with all they require to produce, buy their inputs, get financial inclusion, to sell, get any kind of advisory. And this is an initiative that was, also acknowledged that it was inspired by the Honorable Prime Minister during COVID, when he launched this initiative under Niti Aayog on farm to fork, digitizing Indian agriculture. That's what gave the inspiration, and conceptualized and tried during that period. Then we subsequently piloted it, and then it's now into a full-scale app with 2.5 million farmers, thousands of FPOs. And we did baseline of farmers who'd started initially. In the second year, they reported about 23% improvement of incomes. I think that's been one of the most fascinating and exciting initiatives that ITC has taken.
Would you like to talk about the most challenging moment?
So, I think the most challenging moment for me, and I would say, I think is going to be common with many people, is actually dealing with and coming back strongly after COVID. It was a black swan event for a company like ours, which believes in working together, face to face. We travel, meet our people in factories, different offices. I think suddenly being disconnected and reimagining how we would work, and doing that well and coming out much stronger after that. I think that was one of the most challenging moments.
You've been listed as one of the best CEOs recently. So what makes a good CEO?
I think it's the team that makes a CEO do well. So as I say, that as CEOs, we have a role to go and receive the acknowledgement, but the people who actually do the work and the hard work is all the team behind us.
Thank you. Can we take a couple of questions on the subject of reimagining FMCG for a future-ready India? Yeah, can we get the mics?
Hello, sir. I'm Shrishti, founder of Minitaka. It's an early-stage startup, Bangalore-based startup. We are building an e-commerce ecosystem. Sir, my question is around productivity. As per productivity and profitability, a consumer brand should focus more on building a D2C control or leveraging marketplaces or marketplaces for scale, or should go omnichannel, like strengthening their omnichannel strategies.
Well, there is no one answer to that. There are D2C, firstly, is standalone D2C is expensive. Cost of customer acquisition is very, very high. So unless your brands have that kind of margin to be able to support that cost, D2C standalone would not work in my view. But to some degree is always useful because you are connected with the consumer and you can ask feedback from the consumer and quickly get some responses. But generally, I would say to start off with, if you wish to be connected to the consumer, D2C is one element, but certainly you need to be on the marketplaces because that is where the consumers are shopping. Right? To get people to come to your place is going to be an expensive proposition. And as your brands mature, as you get size, you can start progressing into other channels, but that's a journey that will have to be traversed. But the only thing I would say for a startup, one of the things I say always to the startups is, don't try and buy turnover. Create models that are economically viable, unit economics that will work out. Because there are very good startups in the country have done well, but there are a few of them, many of them with great ideas, are not able to progress because the economics has not worked out, and then you suddenly run out of cash.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Next question.
Hi, thank you for this wonderful session. My name is Aramita Mitra, and I run an NGO in India. And I would really, adhere to the fact that in rural, your products are much more, celebrated. The school children whom we distribute, they want dark fantasy, more than any other product. So my question would be, as India is moving towards a consumer-driven economy, how the FMCG companies would innovate to merge the aspirational urban market and also the value-conscious rural market. And as per you, is there any particular product in your career that you have seen that has been celebrated both the markets?
There are, many products that have been celebrated in both the markets. You gave an example of dark fantasy. Dark fantasy, right? There are many products similarly, whether it's our yippee noodles or our bingo snacks. So there are many products like that. At the same time, there are products which are designed for unique cohorts, unique requirements. Those are niches, right? But there are several products that go across. So I think this the consumers in rural India are also evolving, are also becoming very well informed and aware. And they are also aspiring for similar solutions that anybody else has in the country. Or for that matter, some are people who are even more aware. We will even aspire for the kind of quality of products that are available globally. And as FMCG, I think marketers, it's our role to also create all the products and all the solutions in India that the consumers require, and so that the consumers don't have to go abroad to import it or look for imported stuff in the country.
Thank you. I think we've run out of time completely. Thank you so much, Mr. Puri. It was a pleasure having you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.